Another thing that we like to help people understand are some of the strange terms and concepts that come along with learning a totally new technology. So each episode, we like to each share a term and explain what it is. So I'm going to start with you, Bridget. You're going to talk about prompt engineering.
Yeah, I feel like prompt engineering might be one that most people understand at this point. It feels like one of the earliest, I don't know, new terms that people learn about when they just start playing with the models. But it's the practice of crafting and then refining the input prompts that you give the large language models to produce the output. So, in other words, the particular questions that you ask it when you want it to give you some output matter. And we've all like learned along the way, and there are actually lots of guides on this now that even some of the companies that build these models have put out, which are interesting if you're just starting to learn about it. But it's a way to strategically think about the questions and the instructions and the context that you give the model, so it produces the answers that you're looking for. So, for example, if you're the more clear you can be, the trying to leave out ambiguity, giving it background and information to frame what you're looking for, telling it to think through its steps and show its work can make a big difference in the answers it produces. Setting limits is helpful. Giving it examples of the kind of things you're looking for is helpful. And then the follow-up questions you ask are sometimes almost as important as the original ones. And I think it's that whole practice that we are referring to when we talk about prompt engineering. Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one point you made there about saying things that sound a little weird but improve the performance, I think is something that's surprising to people. I've seen Ethan Malik post that if you tell the LLM to go back and read the question again, sort of like you would to an elementary school student, that it gets better results. So some of the weird things you could say to them to improve their performance is very odd.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is still true, but there was a period where Ethan and some other scholars, or maybe he was just reporting on other scholarship, showed that if you told the model it was May, it would do a more thorough job than if it thought it was December, because I guess in December, everybody kind of gives their work short shrift because we're trying to get, off to our holiday. So that was fascinating. I don't know if that's still true. That probably, I assume things like that get better and better as time goes on, and it doesn't cut corners just because it might be December 21st, hopefully. All right. So we talk about GPTs all the time, and it's in the title of a lot of the models that we're using. But what does GPT mean, Jen?
Yeah. So one thing that these tech companies have done no favors for us around is like the naming of all of these things. Terrible marketing. I'm convinced it's on purpose because they have to know by now that they're not doing anybody any favors in figuring this out. So GPT, of course, is from Chat GPT, and it stands for generative pre-trained transformers, which is the foundational description of what this technology is. And then there's another version of GPT, which is personalized GPTs, which are customized versions that you can create in Chat GPT to tailor for specific use cases using documents or personas that the GPT will adopt to help you answer particular questions or guide you on particular topics. So if you hear people talking about Chat GPT and then you hear people asking about GPTs plural, usually if they're using the plural form, this is what they're talking about, are these customized models or versions of the model. It's also confusing because the other tech companies are developing their own versions. So Google now has what they call GEMS, which is short for Gemini, which is their version of ChatGPT. So you'll see these terms crop up. But they're really interesting things to use. If you have a specific thing that you're doing over and over again, or a particular resource that you're frequently consulting that can be lengthy and hard to get through, you can create a personalized GPT. So as an example, I have a different GPT for each of my kids' school handbooks because, they're like 100 pages long each. And I only ever need to know one small piece of it. And I keep it up on my desktop in the morning as we're rushing to school. And it's sort of like, can you remind me of where I'm allowed to pull the car up for a drop off at my son's school? Or can you remind me when parent teacher conferences are scheduled, or where we meet the teachers for back to school night at my daughter's school? And it will just search those documents and generate a really quick response for me. And I've been trying to use it in sort of low stakes cases like that. Have you used any GPTs, Bridget?
Yeah, I have. I mean, well, first of all, we have a number of people building them across our internal data at the American Arbitration Association. So quite useful, and it's sort of a step along the way to building some chatbots, which will be useful for everybody around HR information and other internal policies and practices that right now feel to me like they reside in lots of different places on our website or lots of different places on our SharePoint site. And I'm never confident I know which place to pull up. And so building all of the information around one topic into a GPT has been one helpful way to interact with that information. And then I've built a couple just for my own use. Like, for example, I have a CEO coaching GPT that I built, and it's one that I interact with sometimes when I'm bouncing a question off my friend, my CEO coaching GPT before I ask my team in case it's an embarrassing question. I'd rather learn that online first.
I love that. I do the same too. I have I named it Estee after Estee Lauder because I tried to think of a female entrepreneur. So I have a coach for female entrepreneurs that I ask a lot of questions to. And I gave it a lot of context around, my confidence level as a new business owner, things that might be helpful for somebody who has less experience. So to your earlier point about prompt engineering, you can prompt engineer in the GPT as you're creating it to customize the responses that it gives to you. So lots and lots of applications, I'm sure, for lawyers in the future as we really delve more deeply into GPT usage.